Yo, real quick, before you drop $2,500 on that brand new mirrorless lens, let me ask you something. Are we really getting better photos or just more expensive gear? Because here's the thing that no one wants to really admit. Some of the best lenses I've ever shot on cost less than a dinner date. And no, I'm not talking about a quote unquote cheap alternative. I'm talking better color, better rendering, and more character, and of course, most of all, more soul. So yeah, today we're going to be diving into 4 older lenses that straight up outperform modern glass in ways that matter more than lab tests ever will. Lenses with flaws that make your work stand out, and lenses that add emotion and not just sharpness. And if you ever feel like your photos look technically perfect but feel kind of empty, you're going to want to hear all the way through this list. So trust me, stick around to the end because we've got some really good ones, and it also is going to come full circle perfectly. So let's get straight into it. So here's the deal. Modern lenses, I'm not gonna lie, are a little bit boring, and don't get me wrong though. They are incredible machines. They're sharp edge to edge, they autofocus silently, and they're clinically perfect. But I feel like that's kind of the problem sometimes. They're perfect in a way where AI art is perfect. All precision and zero feeling. It's kind of like we traded personality for pixels maybe. And every new lens just kind of feels like an update to the same formula. Everything's a 1.4 or 2.8, stabilized, focused by wire, and it starts to get pretty sterile after a while because I feel like there's this obsession with corner sharpness, chromatic aberration, MTF charts. Like cool, but nobody's falling in love with the fringing or anything like that, bro. And everyone is kind of shooting with the same 35mm 1.4 from the same 3 brands. All the work really starts to blend together because the tools being used to create are pretty similar across the board. Now, here's the flip side. Older lenses, and I'm talking 70s to early 2000s, have this character that I feel like is missing these days. They're imperfect in ways that make an image memorable. And they're imperfect in ways that vary from lens to lens. Some flare, some vignette, and they render colors in ways you can't just preset your way into. And here's the kicker. Some of them are really cheap. A lot of these lenses that I'm going to list are under $200 and outperform $2,000 modern glass, not on specs, but on just overall photo vibe. Things like texture and emotional pull, like just the things that you can't really technically build around to prepare to take a photo about. And I'll say this now, if you're a photographer looking to build a recognizable style, you're better off with a lens that feels more unique than one that's objectively perfect. So let's talk about the 4 lenses that completely changed the way I shoot and think that would change the way you would shoot as well. And it made me really think what quote unquote better even means. So lens number 1, we have the Canon FD 50mm f1.4. This one still, I believe, is under $100. So this one is criminally underrated. This one has that dreamy, soft glow, wide open, but stop it down and it sharpens up like crazy. The colors warm and it gives you that kind of quote unquote filmic look, I guess. And the blur or the bokeh, whichever one you go for, is a little wild and a little unpredictable, but I feel like that's what gives it its own special character and it really makes it unique. This thing is like the gritty indie band of lenses. It's rough around the edges, but it slaps way harder than some label produced pop-up garbage, you know? I've seen people shoot entire client portraits on this thing with a $30 FD to Sony adapter, and people thought it was a legit $2,000 job of portraits being done. And also, this lens happens to love backlight, so if you're shooting golden hour or soft window light, this one is really gonna sing. Another one I have for you is the Helios 44-2 58mm f2, and I believe this one is around $50 right now. And this, like I said, is around $50 I believe right now. And you've probably heard about this one. It's got the swirly bokeh, or they call it the swirly bokeh legend, I guess. But I feel like with this lens, what people don't talk about enough is how this one really does force you to slow down. It's fully manual, quirky as hell, and it's kind of honestly a pain to use at first, but once you get the hang of it, it's pretty cool. It makes you a lot more intentional, and it does help you see different because you have to be polished in your skills in a way where it's different for other lenses. Every shot really feels like you earn it on this one, and that swirl, it's really not just a gimmick. It really draws your eyes straight to the subject. It kind of adds motion, and with motion comes emotion. The contrast is low, the colors are subtle, but when you edit the files, it really is magic being produced. This lens has more so, in my opinion, than half of anything created in modern day, easily. But before we continue on, I have a quick question that I want you all to answer in the comment section down below. What is a criminally underrated lens that you feel like is out there in your opinion? I want to know, has the lens that you use just been something that you've never heard anyone else use and you personally love it? Let me know what that lens would be for you, because I would love to see what you guys have to say, and maybe you will put somebody else on, maybe even me, because I definitely read your comments. And also, if you're enjoying this video so far, feel free to leave a like and subscribe, because 91% of you aren't subscribed, which is pretty crazy. So it would help me out a great deal if you could subscribe. We can continue to grow the channel and make great videos just like these. I would really appreciate it, and let's get straight back into it. So lens number 3 I have is a Minolta RAWCORE X 45mm f2. This one here is pretty much the sleeper lens alert on this video, I'm not gonna lie. Around 75 bucks. This one flies way under the radar, but punches so far above its weight that it's pretty ridiculous. It's tiny, it's sharp, but it has that vintage softness. The colors are super neutral, almost cinematic. I've used this on fashion shoots, travel stuff, and even a little bit of video here and there. There's something really natural about the way it renders skin tones, and because it's a 45mm, it feels a little tighter than a 35mm, but a little looser than a 50. So in my opinion, it makes for a perfect street lens. It's kind of like the halfway point between vintage vibes and clean enough for client work. Now, lens number 4 is kind of a curveball, and that is the Sigma 30mm f1.4 DCDN for mirrorless. So this one, I think is around 300 new. So this is the most expensive one, but it still scraps compared to what modern lenses cost. And this one is a bit of a curveball, like I said. It's modern, yes, but it feels vintage in the way it renders. This one is kind of my go-to for crop sensor work. If you've got Sony ZV-E10, Fuji X, or even Lumix G type of stuff, this one is great. It's small, fast, insanely good in low light, and the way it handles fall off and depth is pretty chef's kiss in my opinion. The autofocus is pretty solid. It's not too digital slick. It feels kind of analog somehow, and I feel like that's why this one is definitely a curveball, but it's really good. It's really good for that reason also, in my opinion. The color rendition isn't overly contrasty or saturated. It gives you room to work in post without it looking too flat. And best of all, like I said, under 350, brand new. Not vintage, but it gives the same intent over perfection energy. So now, I know that some of y'all are going to be thinking this, but bro, my 85mm GM is much sharper. And cool, because I'm not saying that these modern lenses aren't probably quote unquote the best you can get, technically speaking, or via whatever it is features that they have added into it. It makes your life the easiest, I'll just say that. But I feel like we've kind of gotten pretty deep into the gear race, and sometimes people just want to go back and shoot with interesting things that create a unique type of experience and feel to their work. Sometimes it's not about proving who has the best what, or the best camera, the best lens, whatever the case may be. It's about creating something that feels alive, and whatever tools you may need to use that does that or that accomplishes that vision is what you should use, in my opinion. The modern lenses give you the most information, and I feel like the older lenses give you the most emotion. But if I'm building a body of work that's supposed to move people, I'll definitely take character over corner sharpness any day of the week. But for me personally, I have a short little checklist that I go by for things that I look at in the lens when I plan on looking for one or buying one maybe. And it's 4 things. 1, does it inspire you to shoot? 2, does it render light in a way that feels you? And 3, can you afford to drop it and not cry? Big one on that, I'm not gonna lie. And 4, will people remember the image and not the gear? That's it. Forget the specs, forget the hype. Get something that's good, of course, but you don't have to prioritize always trying to optimize everything in terms of what the market says is the most important product to get. So let's talk about the trap of perfect setup, speaking of this, because how many of us waste months researching the ideal kit and things like that, or ideal pieces of equipment before even shooting? I've done it. We all have. Forums, Reddit, YouTube, comparison charts. It's kind of like we're building a NASA mission instead of just going out there and filming or taking photos. But you know what actually builds skill is using what you have, mastering it, breaking it, relearning it. That's where true style is going to come from. Not your lens, but from what you, the creator, does with it. So look at some of the most iconic photographers today. Daniel Arnold shoots on old compact cameras. Joe Greer, half of his viral work is on 35mm film on glass older than probably anyone you know. Renzi Ruiz shoots street with minimal gear but absolutely kills it. It's really not about the gear, it's just about the vision. And these lenses that I'm talking about, they help you lean into a visual voice that's not manufactured by algorithms or MTF charts. They're kind of just for creating and exploring. That's all I really have for you. I appreciate you for watching if you made it this far. And of course, leave a like if you haven't already and subscribe. Again, 91% of you aren't subscribed, so it would help me out a great deal if you could drop a subscribe and help the channel grow. We'll create more interesting lists of cool things that are on a budget that you can get that'll help you stand out and not just whatever is the most expensive, newest, and popular. But anyways, I'll catch you all in the next one. Appreciate you and peace.